5 past. I believe we can start our session today. Maybe James, you could mute. Thank you. So, good evening, everyone, or good morning from wherever you're joining us from. It's great to have you in this session this evening, where we're going to look at a day in the life of a DevOps engineer. So this is just part of the many events that we've been having as a DevOps community, and we are glad that you could join us this evening. So just looking at the agenda of the day, so we have a small icebreaker, then take you through just briefly about the community and just house rules for today's session, and then I'll hand you over to our speaker of the day to take us through the session, just to learn about how it is like being a DevOps engineer. All right, so today's icebreaker, very simply, just can have a few volunteers. Just share with us your name, where you're joining us from, and any highlights for the week. So you can just go ahead and mute yourself, and then tell us your name and where you're joining this call from. So any volunteers? I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
Manasseh? Okay, feel free also to type in the chat. I see Joshua joining from Chuka. Oh, that's great. Joshua, what's the highlight of the week? Anything you'd like to share? Okay, so okay, we have Tony. Tony, go ahead. Tony, I saw your hand.
Hello.
You had raised your hand.
Hello, can
Yeah,
you hear
go
me?
ahead. Yes,
Okay.
Tony, can hear you.
Yes, so my name is Tony, Tony Kivai. I'm joining from obviously Nairobi, Kilimani specifically. And my highlight for the week, I'm doing the Linux certification. So I was able to pass one half of the certification. So yeah, the first exam, then there's a second exam to get the full certification. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing, Tony. Congrats and all the best in your next exam.
Thanks.
So we also have Sharon. Sharon is joining from Nairobi. Welcome. Joseph, go ahead.
Hey everyone.
Hi, Joseph.
Hi, yeah, this is Joseph, DevOps engineer at Arkride. Yeah, I decided to join you today and see what we are doing.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for finding time to join. All right, we've got Manasseh as well joining from Nairobi. Highlight of the week, completing the AWS Cloud Quests Cloud Practitioner. Congrats, Manasseh. So I forgot to introduce myself. So my name is Samson Kalume. I'm a part of the team at the Nairobi DevOps community, and I'm joining this call from Nairobi. I'm looking forward to learning how being a DevOps engineer, how a day looks like. All right, so just a few house rules for today's session. So whenever you want to speak, just raise your hand, then we'll call your name, and you'll be able to go ahead and share your comments or questions that you have. You can as well use the chat box to send in your comments and questions, and even as the session goes on, just feel free to write in your comments, then we'll be able to read them out. So about the community, so we are Nairobi DevOps community, a few months old, and we're here to just create a supportive and inclusive community that values diversity and supports learning and growth. So we have a vision of just being a leading DevOps community in Nairobi and beyond, driving innovation and empowering professionals to excel in their careers. So we have a small team right here: Samuel, Mamoon, Maslin, myself, Samson, Ian, Alvin, Emma, Lawrence, Franklin, and Ivy, and Daniel Orega. So we, a small team, just came together and formed this community. So we welcome ideas. We welcome guys who are willing to run workshops or maybe share, topics. We're able to give us conduct a session. We welcome ideas. We also invite you guys to connect us with the DevOps community or DevOps professionals who can be able to give us talks and share the experiences in this industry. We also welcome feedback. Feel free to give us your feedback, share ideas on how you can be able to make this community better. And of course, we invite you to share our posts as we post on our different social channels. Feel free to share, repost, and also just share the word out there about this community. And we also invite you to just help us with documentation, help us to as well organize events. So right about now, I'm going to hand over to the speaker of the day, Kamande. If you're on the call, I believe you're on the call. Feel free to just take it away.
Sure. Thank you. Mic check. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I believe you guys can also see my screen as well, right?
Yes, we can see your video.
Can you? What about the screen? Can you see what I'm sharing right now?
Not yet. We can reshare.
Okay, all right then. Just a minute. What about right now? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it.
Just to confirm, what do you see on your screen right now?
It's showing who am I.
Okay, nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But it's showing the speaker notes. Yeah.
Oh, the speaker notes. Just a second. Okay, let me just present it for a second. Okay. So presenting. Okay, just a second. Okay. Sorry about that. So no, it is not so. supposed to be sharing.
We can also share.
Okay, so can you
Okay,
guys
yeah,
see
that's
my
good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good now. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. So to start this presentation, I'm going to start with who I am, and that's my name is Gidraff Kamande. I'm a senior engineer. I'm a senior DevOps engineer. I'm currently based in Nairobi, Kenya. And these are my LinkedIn handles. This is Gidraff Kamande. You can follow me at Gidraff Kamande. And so also on Instagram, Kamande Jit. You can also get to follow me where I do get to share my insights and my opinions based on the current technology and opinions. So that's why you get to see me in every day, all day. So that's like one platform you can get to learn about me. That is Twitter, Kamande Jid. And because this talk is mainly based on a day in a DevOps engineer life, and just to start this talk, for me, a usual day or a typical day for me usually start with a self-study. They usually start around 5 p.m. or 5:30. That is if I'm so lazy, so I usually wake up around 5 p.m. The first thing I usually do in the morning, I usually dedicate the first hour or the first 45 minutes to self-study. So this is mainly for me, this mainly sharpening my skills, trying to catch up with what's new, and trying to catch up also with some newsletter that I've subscribed to. This only keep me up to date with the knowledge that I need for my day-to-day work, what's the new update on, for instance, Kubernetes or Docker, or one of those many technologies that I already I depend on day to day in. So I usually start the day with updating my knowledge and studying. If I feel like there's a new technology that is out, I usually take my first hour of the day to get myself introduced to that technology, get up to date to it, and see if this can be of value to my team. And then that's just part of my day. First thing in the day, just make sure you're up to date and study. That's usually the first day. I usually do it every day. And then usually the second thing I get into in my day is starting my day, which usually involves a stand-up calls. So depending on the organization I'm in, so this can be from working from as a single contributor, or an individual contributor, or being part of a team. But from my previous experience, my recent experience, I've been part of a platform team. So this usually starts with stand-ups. So where we give up our updates, what you've been working on, and where you're up to with your current tasks. And then from there, I usually I have a couple of meetings. This can range from having meetings with developers, which can also range from the QA, the front end team, the mobile team, and also the marketing team, which also forms a part of the customer support team. So sometimes you find that some emails that the customer used to sign up with maybe one of the services are not working, and you have to assist them. Maybe the domain or the certificates expired or something. So you have to get into calls, one-on-one synchronization, where you have get to understand the problem the engineers or the developers are facing, and then you have to respond maybe with a task If maybe let's say you're not clear with the task, you have to like go back and have some meetings with your manager, who probably is like I was in my current team. I'm reporting to like what do you call them? It's what do you call it? A technical a project manager. My project manager, who also like double as a CTO of the company. I usually like report to them directly. So when I face like a blocker or something I really don't understand, I usually go to them and they help me like get to understand the problem better. And that's your like meetings. So the meetings tend to be like from one-on-ones, and those meetings where you get to educate people on what you guys are currently working on. That's just like a typical day for me. For tasks, the task can vary from features to bugs to also like feature requests from customers. So currently, if my memory serves me right, there's this current task I was working on, which was involving like this. We had this service we were working on a micro. In my current company where I'm working on, which is like on this is a company based in Germany. So we have this what we currently serve to our customer is like personalized what do you call them, health and fitness. So what we usually do is like when you sign up with our app, which is like on app, you kind of get asked a couple of questions, which you get to sign up. You get to fill your age and what your goal is in terms of fitness, and then we can recommend you. We get to recommend you like the type of the recipe you want to be preparing every night. If maybe your fitness goals or your health goals need some supplements, we can also like supply that with a subscription fee on top of that. So sometimes you get faced with the request where maybe the customer is not being able to sign or not getting the right like recommendation for their goals, and that's where we get involved as a platform team. So we get to like analyze which kind of services that they're not like meeting the customers needs, and then we get to address them like in real time. So what that means for us is that the platform teams, we get to forget everything and make sure that the customers needs are met before like anything else, before anything else. So that's like just the basic, and that's like one of the models. So at Lycon currently, we already like open another branch which is in Italy. So we started out in Germany. We started like providing like personalized training and also like that thing for like our customers. That's like the main goal for Lycon. So when I got hired in this company, so one of my goal was to be part of the platform team, and one of the goal was to make sure that the availability of the application that the customer were using was up to almost 100%, which, as we know, is not always like the case. Mic check, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I thought I lost you. Sorry for that. Mic check. Can you also guys see my video? I don't think my camera is on.
Yeah, we can see.
Oh, can you see me, right?
Okay, you can see your screen you've shared, but not your video. I think your video is off.
Okay, let me try to share this again. Okay, sorry for that. With this video. Oh, can you guys still see my video? Mic check.
Check, we cannot see you, but we can see the presentation.
Okay, okay, then I think I don't know what's up with my video, but the camera is not showing up right now.
Okay.
So just to recap what I said earlier on, is my days usually start with self-studying, and then I usually start my day with the stand-ups, where we usually like get to share our updates and what we've been working on. And usually follow like a Kanban type of
I think we are
project.
losing you. You are breaking.
We have like oh, I'm breaking. Just give me a second. What about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So for my day, I usually start my day with tip ceremony, which is the stand up, and where we get to share our updates. This is what you've been working on, and what you're planning to work on for the next 24 hours. We kind of follow the agile way, but when it comes to how we manage our tasks, yeah, like follow the Kanbans. We have like a couple of swim lanes, which starts from the backlog, which these are the tasks that we already defined, and we already have like the expectations of what we need to achieve with particular tasks. And then we have the task under in progress. Sorry about that. So we usually have like this task which is under progress. These are the current tasks we're working on. Still on the backlog, we already defined the tasks that we need to like tackle on next or handle on next. That's on the backlog, and we don't have like kind of estimation where you usually find like in the other kind of teams where you kind of estimated how much time your task is going to take. So for us as a as a platform team, we usually like decide on okay, if depending on the kind of task or you're working on, is it critical, is it higher priority, or is it a low priority? If it's higher priority, then you're not supposed to like spend more than 2 days on that particular task. And during this daily stand-ups, you get to share like where your progress, where you're at in terms of your progress. If we can extend like more than 2 days, then we have to like have uh, all hands in, where you get to have like a discussion over your blocked or what you need for you to be able to complete the task you assigned. And for us as the platform team, we usually don't have like the rest of the other like ceremonies that you can usually find in a agile team. We have like stand-ups and then with retros. We kind of try to like skip the retro part of the agile ceremonies. So usually have stand-ups after every 3 weeks. We kind of review the tasks that we need like to accomplish. And for me, most of my days are usually like you start off with the meeting, and then the first meeting is usually like the stand-ups, and then you get to review your task, what you have on the board, and if there's something that comes in between your task, maybe there's a request from maybe the customer support or the customer success, the customer success team. You have to like drop everything you're doing and get right on to that task. That's really like the what do you call it, the culture that we have in our platform team. If this is to do with the customer, you have to like drop everything you're doing and just like get all hands in. If maybe let's say for example the customer is not being able to sign into a car, maybe there's no way they are able to like sign into our application, maybe to get their recipes on time or their meal plans on time, then that's like we are losing money when it comes to like the business side of it. We are kind of losing money, so we have like to drop everything. Even the CTO like kind of join this calls. We have to troubleshoot stuff and make sure the customer is able to like sign in. Like that's just the list. So in a typical day, my days are usually made of stand-ups, one-on-one. this is with the developers. This can range from having the front-end engineers, back-end engineers, the marketing team who are maybe not able to like access their campaigning, what do you call it? They're not able to like access their campaigning platform. Let's say maybe they're using a platform like Optimizely, where they need to be they need to see which customers signed in, who are the new customers, and where they're able to like get statistics. This can also like range from also like the data scientist team who need like a scalable data pipeline. You need to sync up to them very quickly, and then everything you need to do like in terms of platform, automation, infrastructure has to like be paused for like a second or for a minute for you to be able to address like the most critical issue, which is having the customer like be able to access their platform and be able to like receive their recipes and their meal plan and all their supplements on the platform. So I think that's like one of our critical like how do you call it? That's like one of the critical aspects you have to deal with every day today as a DevOps engineer. Because I think one of the things in our teams, it doesn't matter whether you're like you're prioritizing or you're also like, what do you call it? You're also like personalizing your experience in towards like a specific area. That this can be infrastructure, automations, yeah, just between the two. So depending on what is on the board on our platform team board, so you can either pick a ticket that is based on either automation or infrastructure or support. So usually have like those three tickets, and that's like a typical day for me. And then at the end of the day, I usually like hit the gym. That's one of my hobby and my tasks. One of my hobby and interests. I usually like hit the gym after works because that usually like really releases all the stress I had during the day, and I feel at home since I have also like a kid. I usually like spend the rest of the day after a 5 plus 2 or -2 2 hours. I usually like spend my time with my son, who is 4 months right now. And that's like a typical day for like a DevOps engineer. And hope you guys are still with me. If you guys have any questions so far, I'll gladly take it. Mic check.
Check.
We are with you.
Can you guys still hear me? Any questions so far? Any place, any point where I wasn't clear, just raise a hand or something. If you want me to recap on something, just raise a hand.
I think there is a question in the chat. Sharon is asking,
Yeah.
I'm new to DevOps. What is the difference between platform and practice?
Okay. So practice, just to answer your questions up to this point. So far, if you've maybe done your research on what DevOps is, it's just like a combination of operations. And what operations means is traditionally used to like have servers where you get to purchase servers from maybe a vendor who like provides with maybe like some servicing. So you get to like get this VPS, which means like virtual private servers. So you get to pay for them. Maybe this can be like a monthly subscription. You get to pay. That means like that doesn't have to like in doing the DevOps. And so what usually used to happen back then is you pay for this particular fee every month, depending if you underuse it or you overutilize it or you utilize your server. you still have to pay the same server, you know. So what means by the platform team is there are those particular services within the organization that you guys own as the operation as a platform team. These kind of services or these kind of softwares enable the engineers to be able to like deploy efficiently and also be able to like manage their services proficiently as well. So what you guys usually do is like write a couple of scripts and provide them to like the engineers, the developers. But when I mean the developers, these can range from the front-end engineers, back-end engineers, QA engineers, and etc. And when I mean the business side, this means like the sales teams and the marketing team. So when you're a DevOps engineer, you can either be on the you have to be on both sides where you're working on the developer sides, the operation sides, and also the other extra side, which is the business side, which is the marketing team. So the marketing team might be also needing like to run like a marketing campaign where they need to like run some ads, send some emails to some customers for them to maybe subscribe. Because of a DevOps engineer, your work is to maybe enable or make sure that there is no conflict between all these teams. So because the marketing team might ask the engineers or the developers, the front-end engineers, like we need a different views when maybe a certain customer from a different country subscribe to our services, and we might need like a different view for a different customer in a different country. So those might be different like campaigns. For us, we need like different also like for us as a DevOps team, what comes to our mind is we need like a different what do you call it, domain for particular customers in a different specific areas or a different country, and we need a specific domain for this particular customer. But in the end, what really matters is what kind of service are they receiving, because you might find like maybe a particular maybe a particular set of customers in maybe say Germany might have access to particular like specific supplements or specific like services they have close to them, while as the other customer maybe let's say from Italy, they have like a different like services or specific products they have access to. So us as the platform team or the DevOps team have to ensure that the domains match these countries or the kind of locales or the kind of language be spoken maybe in Italy also matches what this kind of what these customers search for, and then they get the result for. So also there's not that like the language barrier. You have like to come. You also as a DevOps engineer you have to also like come in. You know, like okay, there's this specific culture. They need this speak this language. So whenever you're delivering this service, it has to be in their specific language where what they understand. And for platform team, most of the things you usually do from like uh, day-to-day tasks, this is to make sure that the developers, and when I say the developers, this means this cuts across from the person who's developing the HTML and CSS, from the person who's maybe doing the Python API, from the business person who's also like doing the marketing. So this all cut across. And as a DevOps person, when you're doing when you want to handle all these like diverse teams, you also have like to make sure that whatever you're doing or whatever you're delivering to these teams makes sense to them. Because for developer, for backend engineer, you want to know like how much in my how can my service scale to this extent. For a for front-end engineer wants to know like, okay, I have this couple of microservices that are decoupled, but they're serving the same purpose. But how can I like deliver the same kind of services to the different people based on where they are and based on the location they have chosen? That's kind of different. I don't know whether I'm making sense right now. Mic check. Samuel, Samson.
My mic check. Yes, we can hear you.
Just raise a hand if you feel like I'm not making any sense right now. Yeah.
Okay. You are. I believe you are making sense.
Yeah, so just to sum it up in terms of responsibilities as a DevOps engineer, usually find yourself working on tasks that are either meant for the developers or or tasks that are meant to eliminate trials. And when I mean trial, which means like you're trialing, like you're struggling with something else, right? This can mean like from CI/CD processes, from this is continuous integration to continuous delivery or continuous deployment for the developments, for the developers as well. This also can mean like maybe there's a structure or there's a process that maybe the marketing team needs like something changed on how maybe we are rendering maybe our front end for different customers. They can come to us as a DevOps engineer and say like, okay, I want this customer when they visit this particular URL or this particular domain, they get this particular view, and I want this particular set of customer when they get to visit this particular domain, they get this particular set of view. So as the platform team, we have to ensure that each customer is served and they're getting what they're looking for. Just making sure that every member of the team, whether you are working on the operations team, the front end team, the back end team, you guys are all in sync, and then there's no like what do you call it? There's no confliction between all these teams. So one of like the responsibility of a DevOps engineer is just making sure that this back and forth where maybe you guys have already developed the application and then you need to push it to the people who deploy the application. We try to, as much as possible as a DevOps engineer, to eliminate the handovers. Thereby, you have the developer developing application, and that's the system administration or the system operations team who gets to deploy the application so it can be accessible to the team. So what does us as a developer, a DevOps engineer team do? We usually try to eliminate these processes, which means what this means is from the get-go, when we get the specs from the application, we get to collaborate between these two teams, ops and the developers teams, making sure that whatever the requirements comes in, they don't hinder this other team from progressing, and they don't hinder the other team from progressing as well. So just to make sure that all these teams are on the same page. Like if I need to make sure like my infrastructure support kinda maybe this particular stack. I'm also still communicating with the developers, make sure that developing the same stack so that when it comes to delivering this like particular software to the customer, we don't have like this conflict and blame game where like the developers teams comes to us as the operations team and say like, okay, our apps was working on the local system, but when it gets to the system admins who get to maintain the application and make sure that the availability of the system is up at all time, then the application fails. So there is that back and forth between the two teams where like it was working on a machine, but now it's not working on machines. What's really happening, uh, there get to be a conflict between these two teams. So one of the major and the main tasks of a DevOps engineer is to make sure that you're eliminating silos. And what I mean by silos is whereby you find yourself in a company where if you're a developer, you're also like sticking to your developer team. If you're the operational team, you're sticking to your operations teams. And you guys only get to interact when you guys are having like handing over the system itself. But in a DevOps, in an organization that is already have adopted DevOps, that's not supposed to happen. There's not supposed to be have like handovers, not blame games whereby it was working machine, it's not working machine. That's not supposed to happen. So for us, one of the major responsibilities of a DevOps engineer is to making sure that uh, you guys are getting this culture into place whereby there's no blame game between the teams who are involved in like developing a certain system or a certain software. And the other responsibility for a DevOps engineer is making sure that the processes, that is from the development, the moment you start coding, the moment you commit your code to like a version control system, at the moment from the quality assurance team gets to pick the software, just test it, and also like get either to approve it for maybe deployment or either take it back to the development because of the bugs that exist. So you get to make sure that these processes are already streamlined in a way that the developer, the QA, and the business team don't feel like there's a handover between the two, between all the three teams, right? One of the lastly, but not lastly, the other responsibility of a DevOps engineer is managing infrastructure. And what I mean by managing infrastructure, this could range from having an on-premises infrastructure to cloud managed infrastructure. The difference between the two is that one which is having your own infrastructure where you get to purchase the VPS, which is virtual private servers, and get to host all these services that you need. This could range from your front end, back end, also the databases and all their version control. In my experience as a DevOps engineer, I've worked in teams where they have like on-premises infrastructure, which means they have like their own, they have purchased their own servers from their different service provider. And I also had like experience with working in teams where they have like all the infrastructure in the cloud. So what this really means, if I don't know all of you, if you guys are in Kenya, but usually what this means when you have like a cloud provider is just the same way it goes to your tap and maybe get the readings of how much water you have used maybe within a month, and then you get a bill. This is what really happens when it comes to cloud computing. So you really get to pay not for purchasing the actual infrastructure or the actual meters and the installation part of it, not paying for that, but really paying for like already set up infrastructure. We have like the meters, the connection done already. So what you only get to pay for is what you only get to use. For instance, in Kenya, we have this token where you have to like get a prepaid token before you get to use the electricity. But when it comes to cloud computing, you usually get the bill at the end of the month. We usually say like, this is how much you used of maybe a particular CPU and a particular memory, and we are going to charge this much per hour for this particular CPU, and we're going to charge this much for a particular memory or particular compute resources. So that's really what it means when it comes to cloud computing. You get to pay for what you use, but not for the actual infrastructure or the actual server, right? So for us as DevOps engineer, one of the responsibilities is to make sure that the infrastructure is cost effective. And by the time, what we mean by cost effective is that we are not, as a business or as an organization, we are not spending so much on the infrastructure, but we also like trying to make sure they're using less when it comes to the infrastructure side of things, right? So one of the responsibilities of the as a DevOps engineer is to make sure that your infrastructure is cost effective. This might mean having to evaluate between using different kind of services. Recently, I've been using AWS, and for what that meant for me is trying to use like different combination of services. There's those like on spot where you get to like dedicate a certain kind of money and get provided with certain kind of infrastructure, CPU and stuff. And there are those on demand where you have to pay for the money, $1 for a bank for $1. So I think that's what it means. What that means is how much you're using, the infrastructure you're using, you have to pay for it. But there are those like kind of services that are provided where you have like can pay, dedicate a certain amount of money, get to use like a particular a specific kind of resources you get to use for your resources or for your workload. And then once you dedicated that like for a whole year or for 1.5 years or something, you'll be paying like a continuous amount of money that doesn't get to increase or reduce. You'll be paying just like a constant amount of money for the cloud. And just to sum it up, one of the responsibility of DevOps engineers just make sure that the culture, well, DevOps is not like a role, is not like a thing you get to feeling. It's just like a culture, which really emphasizes on communications, automations, right? There's also like monitoring and sharing of knowledge. So that's mostly about the DevOps. If you're either not like communicating about what you're working on, you're neither like automating processes within the organization. You're not either like monitoring or measuring what you guys are working on, because in DevOps we really what's really like means a lot for us as a DevOps engineer is the measuring part. You really need to measure like uh, everything in DevOps, the amount of traffic you're getting from the amount of the time engineers are spending on a particular task. If you cannot be able to like automate that particular task to like spend more time on that particular task, then I don't think that's you're practicing the DevOps right way. And when it comes to infrastructure, it's either on premises or on the cloud, which means if you are using infrastructure on premises, you have to like be good with Linux and using tools such as Terraform and Ansible to automate stuff, and also like backup for virtualization. And I don't think I'll go much into details into that. Maybe I can leave that for another talk. And before maybe I can go to the next topic, which is the challenges usually faced as a DevOps engineer, I'll take any questions you guys have so far.
Yeah, thank you, Gidraff. I think there's Tony had raised his hand. Maybe
Okay.
he can, Tony, maybe you can go ahead, then can take the other couple of questions.
Okay. Yeah. Again, can you hear me well?
Yeah, very clear,
Hello?
Tony.
Okay, then.
Yeah, mic check, can you hear?
So,
Yeah, I can hear.
so I had a couple of questions. First, I don't know if you say this, but are you part of the ops team, or you're the
Yeah.
DevOps engineer, and there is an ops team, and you're just like linking all of the three teams?
Yeah, okay. Is there another question that I can take along with Code Tony's?
I
Okay,
think
I had another
Okay.
question.
Okay.
okay.
So,
Tony, go ahead.
yeah. So in the at the start you mentioned like when you start your day, like reading up, trying to see things that are happening in the tech space and everything like that. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, how do you manage let's say when you see something new, something novel, something interesting, and you want to try it out. Okay, an example could be like um, a new way of authenticating to applications that's supposed to be more secure and everything like that. And if
Yeah.
you're reading up on new things every day, and it's like new things are coming, and yeah, trying to trying to implement them and stuff like that. Yeah, do you find a challenge with that, or sometimes it's not even really in your control?
Okay. Okay. I get your question.
Mm.
First, let me first of all start with the first question that I got, which is which kind of meant of ops or DevOps. Um, one of the things that maybe I want to make clear before maybe I can explain the answer. DevOps is more of like a culture which mostly emphasizes on communications, automations, measuring, and sharing. Just like we term that as CAMS, that is CAMS, which is System for Communication, A stands for automations, M stands for measurings, and S stands for sharing, right? So for DevOps engineer, you have to like embrace all of the three, all of the four, which is CAMS. You have either to be good at communications. This can range from having like organizing talks within the organizations, making sure that like maybe any technology that you're implementing within the organization is well understood by everyone in the team. This can range from engineers, developers, and also the business stakeholders. This which means like the business team or the marketing team or the sales teams, right? Uh, the difference between the two is the DevOps. It's kind of trying to link between. It's trying to kind of like link between two teams, which is the developers. When I mean the developers, this can mean the QA, the front end developer, the back end. When I mean the operations team, these are the people or the kind of people who are involved in managing in and out of the day operations of the applications. This is making sure that the applications that the organizations own are up and they're operating at that level at which the customers are expecting it. So what we usually do when it comes to DevOps or SRE, there's something we call a service level agreement. This is the agreement between the customers and the business. We have the agreement saying that if the application goes below than this particular percentage, maybe than 88% of the time or the uptime of the application, then you guys are supposed to maybe compensate me or maybe give me a discount if the application goes down to this. That's on the marketing team. On the operations teams, we have to make sure that like the customer doesn't get to a point whereby they're getting lesser than 80 or 90% uptime of the application, right? So that's like the difference between the operations and the ops. But to make a summary out between the two, between the DevOps and the ops, usually the operations team that usually mainly focus on the making sure that the infrastructure, mainly the virtual machines or the servers are running up correctly. They have the internet accessibility they need. That's mostly the work of the operations team. But when it comes to DevOps, one of the main work of the DevOps team is to make sure there's no that difference between the operations teams and the developers team. So what that means is these two teams, the developers, the QA, the backend, the mobile team, and the front end team, and the operations team get to work together from the get-go. From the get-go, what do I mean? Like the DevOps, this DevOps team, which is trying to ensure is there is no silo or specific grouping or groups forming around the software you guys are developing. So you have to make sure that the developers don't get to blame the operations and the operations don't get to blame the developer. Throughout the life cycle or the software development cycle, all these pieces get to work together. And that's what DevOps culture means. You get to work together, no blame games, no pointing of fingers, and you don't get to blame your partner. Like this software wasn't working, this software wasn't working in my environment, this was not working. In DevOps, also mean that we are cutting all the BS. The BS stand for bullshit. I hate to say that, but that's just it. To get to I hope I have answered your question. To get to the second question, which is how I get to up to date with new technologies, tools, and stuff. Just to make it clear, is when it comes to me getting my knowledge or getting to read the newsletters, I'm specific to particular specific newsletters because when I get into a team, I usually like get to understand the technologies they're using and what knowledge I really need for my day-to-day like operations. So if I feel like those technology that I have subscribed to when it comes to the newsletter are relevant to me, I get to maybe review them maybe once a week or on a daily basis, depending on the newsletter. But this is specific to tools that we're using within that specific organization. For instance, in my previous organization, we're using Terraform, Kubernetes, Helm charts, and Golang. So my day to day when I was starting the day, I would actually like go through like newsletter on Golang, Kubernetes, and see what is new. If I see there's a new vulnerability that has been exposed in the CVE, then I'll get to communicate that to my team and say like, you guys need to update this, right? This is the new script. This is what you need to run, maybe on our CI/CD for this to get updated. And if there's something that we like see like this tool have really changed or it doesn't really like serve us anymore, we really have to turn that discussion within our what do you call them, our ceremonial calls, which is can be stand-ups, mostly which for platforms usually stand-ups. So we get to discuss this through stand-ups and see whether like this is providing any value for the company or for the organization. If it doesn't provide any value for the organization, and what I mean by the organization is the DevOps part and the ops teams. It doesn't get to provide value for the developers, the business team or the operations, then we don't get to implement it. Then we have to like vet it and see like, okay, does this get to serve us or doesn't get to serve us? Then we get rid of it. If there are those particular updates, maybe in a particular software, for instance, recently I've been using Kubernetes and Docker and containerization software mostly. So if we see that there's no any particular change that requires to like maybe do something in how we configure our softwares or our infrastructure, then we don't like do anything or process any change at that particular time. Just like go whatever we want, and then if it's a support system, if it's a post or educating or mentoring, then we dedicate more time onto that. But if we don't have anything to update, then we just continue with our daily day in day out tasks. Usually like involve like having calls, one-on-one things to help the customer support. And yeah, that's just it. And I hope I've answered the question. If you guys have any
Yes,
other
you
follow-up
actually answered
questions.
I'll do it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. Yeah, so moving on to challenges faced by DevOps engineer. This is usually not easy. This having got used to like working remotely and coming back to working locally, this is one of usually like the most difficult thing to do. And I usually face these challenges a lot when I'm working in a particular role. And one of those challenges I usually do face is to understand what coming into the software development life cycle. This was to the handover between different teams, the dev and ops. So a whole system works from together. It's supposed to be symbiotic. From that, I like become misunderstand the role that you play within a team.
I think
And
Gidraff,
your team should have like the developer
I think
and
you're
the QA
breaking.
team. Yeah, my check.
Is he breaking on your side to Samson? Check.
Yeah, I thought it was on my side, but I think you're breaking a bit.
What
Maybe you
about
can.
now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're still breaking.
My,
Yeah, you're still breaking at the moment.
okay. Can you see me?
You are breaking.
What about now?
Maybe say something else. You're still breaking.
Okay. Check. My check, can you hear me? Hello, my check.
Better now? Maybe better? Hello? You don't? Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Maybe you can give him a minute to set up, and then we see if we'll be able to hear him.
My check, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you're not. You are still breaking. Maybe you can turn off the video
Okay. What about
and
now?
try
Can I-
now. Yeah, I think we can.
Okay. Yeah. Can you guys see my screen right now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah. So where I left off is one of the challenges that we face as DevOps engineer, and one of the main challenges you usually face is your role not being understood by other engineers or other people in the organizations, and this usually can result from the people denying or people like trying to not people being reluctant on adopting like the new process that you're setting up as a DevOps engineer. You might find maybe people in a team they like get the old way of doing stuff where they have to copy paste code from maybe developers workspace to like the production environment. Usually that doesn't work without a pipeline because you have to like do a lot of firefighting or handovers. This usually involves a lot of handovers, which as a DevOps organization, you're trying to avoid. We have handovers between the developers and the operations teams. You want to avoid that as much as possible. The other challenge we usually face as DevOps engineer is the engineers or the developers expecting DevOps to solve everything, right? What you'll like face a lot is you get on the call, maybe where the other like stakeholders involved, and then the usual happens where you get blamed. uh, we would have deployed because if it wasn't for the DevOps team, we have deployed because this thing was working on developers' machines. But when it goes to the CI/CD pipeline, it broke or it didn't work anymore. So these are like the usual blames usually face as DevOps engineer. And the final one or the last one is like the lack of eagerness to adopt DevOps as a culture within the organizations, right? Each and every manager each and every manager knows like we need DevOps, but they really don't get to understand what DevOps is all about. They don't get to understand DevOps is all about like communications, automations, measuring progress or where you guys are at, and trying to share the information across the organization so that everyone is aware of what DevOps is all about and what this DevOps role is all about. But most often you don't get this. You don't get understood. You get most people expecting you to solve each and every problem, and you get also like the eagerness for the engineers are not eager to like adopt DevOps. They don't still want to go through like the CI/CD process where you have to like integrate your code every day or your code tested or have unit test in place every day for the code that you're delivering to the customer to be approved or to pass. People want to like make sure that everything in your code, either the tests are failing or the tests are not passing or there's an issue, you want to just make sure that if the code is working on a machine, then you're just assuming that this is going to work on like the production or the other environment that your code is going to deploy to. But that's not really the case. You find like you missed some dependencies or you were working on a different environment from a different from the other engineers. So when you guys get to integrate your code, you find there are a lot of issues, right? This is one of the many challenges we face as DevOps engineer. People don't want to like face it. People get to fear you once you're a DevOps engineer. And I don't know, I haven't like up to date, I haven't like understood why people like fear engineers or DevOps engineer or QA engineers. Because for developers, that is the front end, back end, the data scientists, you like fear the QA engineers and the DevOps team. I'm very sure someone have already like gone through this and have faced most of these challenges that I've already mentioned in this talk. But just to sum it up is we usually get misunderstood a lot of time, get blamed, and as much as we want to like evangelize this DevOps culture into organizations, we usually find reluctant ears who are willing to listen. And but one of the things I've really learned from this is trying to push it, trying to persevere, trying to do a lot of presentations within the organization to make sure that people really understand their role. And once you get friendlier with the teams, they get to understand what your role is all about, on what they're going to achieve for the business. If they kind of get to understand this process, they need like to follow up. And at the end of the day, it's not all about yourself or what you're trying to do or what you're trying to feel better about yourself, but it's all about the organization, what you're trying to solve, what you're trying to save the business. This can range from the infrastructure, the time spent by the engineers when they're maybe trying to develop particular features. And I think it's all, when it comes to challenges, you don't like get to face like the same challenges day in, day out. This could range from infrastructure, we need to like understand Linux better. get a better hang of networking, cloud computing. Challenges faces you like every now and then. But DevOps engineer, you have a basics and an anchor where you get hold yourself onto. And this usually abbreviated by this term CAMS, which is CAMS, which stands for communications for the C, A for automations, M for measuring, and S for sharing. And by that, I think I've already shared everything about DevOps. And unless I have any questions regarding the challenges I face as a DevOps engineer, I'm going to go to the next slides, which is Q&A. Mic check. Any questions? Any takers?
Yeah, thank you, Gidraff, for sharing with us. So a couple of questions, some on the chat, but let's pick Emily. Emily, raise her hand. Can take a question.
If you can get read the questions for me, I'll really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll do that. We can maybe say from Emily, then I'll read for you the other questions.
Sure.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My question is about I would like to know the unemployability rate of DevOps, and if there's maybe some who are in the call who have successfully finished the course or taken the course and they have not secured jobs, whether employment or freelancing, and they can share what are the challenges they are facing in getting a job. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. That's a very good question. And let me first of all take that on. Probably Samson could take note of the other questions and maybe share with me as I am answering this one. So initially, when you're starting out as a DevOps, usually challenging because most of these companies are usually looking for mid to senior DevOps engineer. So when you're working as a junior, for me it was a tough time for me because I had to do a lot of freelancing work. This was mainly on platforms like Fiverr or Upwork, where it's send proposals. I used to work from teams, either maybe one person team where you're the only DevOps. You might also find requirements where they need you to be able to be able to code and so deploy codes and manage infrastructure. This is one of the challenges when you're starting out as a DevOps engineer, when you're at the early stage of the career as a DevOps engineer. You will face a lot of rejections. You will, because people don't really believe in the DevOps stuff. So it's difficult to get our jobs, but one way I found out to be able to get jobs is to usually do a lot of freelancing work. Go to Upwork, go to Fiverr, go to any platform that you know that offers freelancing services. Apply a lot. And one thing I usually find really interesting is when you get to apply, you get to also learn what you don't know, right? There are a lot of technologies that you need to understand as a DevOps engineer, and maybe if you are keen to take notes, I can just list them loud. Maybe this can help you out maybe in your next interview. One of them is networking, basic computer networking. There's automation, but when I mean automation is configuration management. This involves configuring the server themselves to the actual networking, where you have to configure the network setting on the cloud, on these cloud platforms, to be able to suit your particular service or particular application that you're serving to your customer, you need to understand Linux, a bit of programming. That's one of the skills I really need to understand. But one thing I can tell you for sure is you're going to be patient with when it comes to DevOps, because as much as we would like to think of it as a new skills, it has been there for a while, and it also like take a lot of time for you to like get to understand itself. For me personally, I also like find myself trying to go back to the basic to get a grasp or grasp of what I need to understand when I'm working on. But if I can really narrow down what I've said so far is just understand for Linux. Linux is the operating system and networking. I believe the other two links when it comes to DevOps, this you can learn day in, day out, depending on the team that you're working on. You might find that you're working on a team that requires Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud Platform or Azure by Microsoft. But all you really require is like the basic knowledge of networking and Linux. And what you'll find after this is all these skills, depending on the platform or depending on what platform you're using, these skills are interchangeable. When you go to AWS or GCP, you'll find you're using the same maybe type of load balancing, the same types of computing power when it comes to servers, the same types of storage when it comes to DBs and stuff. The only thing that matters is the only thing that changes the naming between these providers. So if you are to take anything from this is just to sum it up, just learn networking and Linux. The other thing with to do with Terraform, Kubernetes and stuff, all those stuff depends on what you really understand about Linux and networking. And I really hope I have answered your question. And I'm going to take the next one. Just if you feel like haven't
Oh.
addressed the question enough, just send a follow-up question. I'll gladly help.
Okay. Thank you for that. So there were about three other questions. So first
Yeah.
one was from Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So the question is, can you give more examples of what you do when it comes to managing infrastructure?
Okay. Let me first of all take that one. Let me see. I can share if I have anything to share right now. Let's see. Okay, here's my screen. So I'm sharing. Okay, let me just find them. Just give me a second. Let me find my terminal. Mic check. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Do you mind going back? Can you read the question again? So that
I think the question was, can you give more examples of what you do when it comes to managing infrastructure?
Oh, awesome. Okay, let me try to share my screen again. Okay. Sharing. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so what that means for me is, can you guys see my screen, right? Mic check, can you guys see my screen, right?
Yeah. Yes, you can see yes, scroll.
Okay, this wasn't part of the demo, but I just decided to like show it on behalf of Elizabeth. And so what I'm trying to show here is one of the things you're supposed to be comfortable with is editing code and VS Code as a DevOps engineer. And also, either you're supposed to come from operation side of things or the DevOps side, the developer side of things. For me, early on in my career, I started out as a developer, mainly developing web applications with using Python and Fast API, Flask framework, and React, that is JavaScript. And then I later on transitioned to like becoming a DevOps. One of the things that you'll be facing as a DevOps engineer, you'll face like containerization technology, that is Docker, which means containerizing your applications. And when I mean by containerizing your application, this means like taking all your application as it is, the code itself, and all the dependencies that they need for them to run like properly in any environment. So we usually make that, or we kind of pack that into like a single image. We call that an image, and we store it in a registry. We call that like a registry. And then you have to like use like an orchestration engine to like deploy those images. One of the most famous orchestration engine is Kubernetes, which kind of provides you with a way to like provide configuration for Kubernetes and how you want your application to be delivered to the customer. This could be how much do you want it to scale, how many services do you want like to be provided, be available. And just to answer questions, my day-to-day like tasks usually like involves coming to like this like one of the repository or version control we have. This from my previous company, and just hoping this is not being recorded because it's supposed to be private. So we have what you can see here is we have charts. This like we have like those external charts we manage. We can get to import them into our own like version controls. Then we get to manage from there on. You can see a couple of, maybe I don't know whether you have familiarity with these services. So one of the services here is Chat Museum, which is like what do you call it? You get host the service on your own like servers. Just get hold your all the images that you really need. We have Optimizely. So this is mostly for the business team. So when I mentioned that as a DevOps engineer, you have to work with cross-platform team. This means like the developers, the business teams. So the business teams wants to know like which type of marketing or marketing strategies are working. So they need to use like A to B testing software. So in this case, when I joined this team, this was one of the tasks that I really worked on. This is Optimizely. So Optimizely is one of the services like allows you to like to do A to B testing, where you get to like show different version of the application to different versions to different customers based on where they are. So Optimizely allows you to do that. But when it comes to Kubernetes, there's no way to like be able to like handle that kind of infrastructure at the back end. So with Optimizely agent, it allows you to like deploy the service within one of the services and be able to like get those features that you're not able to like activate when you're using like the paid service, which is the SaaS application. So one of the tasks I was assigned was to deploy these Optimizely agents, and it required me to like do a couple of configurations, right? These are easy to get to because you can get this from like do like optimizely agent on your browser and search for it. You get to this page where they provide you with a code, and then you can basically copy and paste all that configuration needed, and then you can customize it. That was one of the things I worked on. The other thing was the Prometheus here. So Prometheus, it's used for scraping. And what that means is for monitoring and logging. So once I mentioned about CAMS, which means for communication, automation, and measuring. When it comes to measuring, you have to measure the state of the application. And one of the to do this is through logging and monitoring. And one of the tools you have to utilize day in to day out is Prometheus and Grafana. So Prometheus is used to like grab information that are being stored by applications. To give a better example is just imagine you are sick, right? How does your body respond to when you're sick, right? You get high temperatures, you kind of vomits, you kind of diarrhea, no? But with Prometheus, it allows you to have the same application, the same properties for your application, to set the same properties for your applications. You get to set when you get to need alerts, when you get to need like some alerts, maybe when the application is not like receiving the right traffic, then the temperature has to raise up. But in terms of Prometheus, what you get is alerts. So we have these particular channels in our Slack, which use for communications within our team. So if we get these alerts, then we have to like drop everything. That is if it's into production, you have to drop everything and act on the request or act on the response we're getting from Prometheus. Because this is what is Prometheus is like a doctor for us. We get to assess the application, the state of the application, the kind of log is putting out, and from that we get to learn like how our software is operating. And they feel like it's not operating at the required standard, then we have to like have like a troubleshooting session and see what the problem is, right? One of the tasks I worked on when I joined this team was setting up Prometheus and Grafana, which provide the dashboards. Prometheus is mainly for scraping, but when I mean scraping, it means like anything that is being spit out of the application, Prometheus just takes it in and kind of present it in like a user-friendly way. So you get to view them in like you can be able to interpret what is really happening on the application. That's where we need a Prometheus server. So here we have these YAML files. So mainly if you're familiar with DevOps operations work, you're either working with JSON files or YAML files. This is what you'll be working with all day in, day out. You have to know the structure or the formation of the YAML files and how you need to define. You can see here we have like a couple of configurations. This is service account. This all setups the how you're going to access the applications. And then we have the alert manager. This kind of activates whether you want to get alerts on a particular channels. We have the Grafana. This way you get like set up the specific dashboard based on the team you're in. If you're in the backend team, I'm assuming you want to see the number of connections you have on the DB, the number of HTTP errors you're getting, the request rate or the error rates you're getting. So with Grafana and Prometheus, you're able to see this on real time and you're able to act upon this. And just to answer the question that I got at the first, these are usually what you usually doing day in, day out when it comes to DevOps. You have to make sure that the application are running at all time. You also serving different teams within the organization. This could be the QA team, the business teams, as was with the case with the optimizely agents, where the business teams wanted to understand what is happening within our cluster, and we had to provide the optimizely agent as a solution for them to be able to see like the logs and be able to like see what's happening when the customer signs is or up to when the customer completes their journey. So me as a DevOps engineer, I also like enable that the business teams or the developer teams are able to like work in tandem or work in a way that they're able to understand one another. And that's where I really come in as a DevOps engineer. And that's mostly about it. I hope I have answered your question, Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Gidraff.
I'm glad I was able to.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So there's another question from Manasseh. I saw he raised his hand, but the question was, which DevOps tools do you commonly use, and how do they come in handy?
Okay. Nice. That's a very nice question, right? And just to go back to our board, to VS Code. I hope you can see my VS Code. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, let me just do this. Let me just adjust a new tab, right? And then we're just going to do this very quick, right? Let's say we're going to have this tools.sample or something, right? And then we're going to reference this. We have this code here, right? And let's just go line by line and see what we have here. And one of the things we can see, because we're using Kubernetes, one of the tools I usually use is Docker. So for Docker, what you usually do is make sure that when your application is we're developing applications, it run like in every environment. So for Docker, this kind of encapsulate your application code, source code, and the dependencies, right? It packages it. So this is for packaging. So this is one of the tools I use each day. And then next is Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is mainly used for like you have like one container image and you need to run like a couple of services or a couple of replicas. So Kubernetes allows you like to provide Kubernetes with configuration in terms of YAML files. And Kubernetes usually like follow these instructions in terms of manifestal files and deploy the services based on that one. So once you've already like packaged the images, once you've already packaged application as images, then we need to like make sure these package applications are running. So that's where we need Kubernetes on, right? Right. So we need to use. Can you guys still see my screen, right?
Yes.
So we have like Kubernetes there. One of the other most usually used tool is Terraform. So for Terraform, I usually use this for infrastructure management. By the time when I mean infrastructure management, I might be working in AWS, right? But what I really need to do is be able to deploy a couple of resources within AWS cloud platform. So if I can pull another repository that I usually use day in, day out, we can come here and try to list this and see CD to AWS. And then we can do code. So what you can see here is, I just cancel this out. So one of the other tools we use is Terraform. So we get to use like most of the open source provided modules per Terraform. Terraform kind of provides you're using kind of like old code or like kind of reused codes that have already like been provided. You don't have to like invent everything from scratch. So with Terraform, you have to define scripts in terms of what you can see here. So for instance, we have this out server. Let me just write something that is more accurate. Okay, just a second. Need to cancel this for me. So when it comes to Terraform, what Terraform allows you to do is define resources depending on the cloud provider or depending on the, for instance, here what you have is we have a couple of repositories that you need to like reference, right? So what you do in that case, you have to define a module and then specify what you need for that module. What this means is we have we were using like a microservice architecture. So whatever you see here or this repository reference a particular service within our microservices. So this we usually do to like deploy our infrastructure. This could range from like deploying the Kubernetes infrastructure as well. Make sure that we have like node groups that are specific for particular services. You might find like particular services might need like more compute power, so we need to like dedicate them to particular nodes in our clusters. So we use Terraform to do that, and we also combine that with scripting. And what I've just showed you is one of the means we usually use Terraform, AWS, and Kubernetes and Docker for most of our deployments. And just to make sure I didn't forget that, there is one more tool that I usually use. Just a second. Where is that? Yeah, this is Kubernetes, sorry. So we usually use Helm charts. So Helm charts allow you to package the entire applications into like one package, which you can usually like reuse or redeploy many times. This is one of the core technologies. Other technologies I usually use is for programming language. We use Golang. So this is one of the language you have to like really be familiar with. We use Golang, AWS, Kubernetes, Terraform. I already mentioned that. What else? And most of our servers are using Linux. We do have a couple of subscriptions, which range from like CMS to A/B testing softwares such as Optimizely, which I mentioned earlier on. And this is just one of the tools I use day in, day out. For Kubernetes, this can range from a number of tools from we have Helm charts, we have Istio for service mesh, and also have like Crossplane. These are some of the tools that maybe you can easily like look it up and see what they're used for. But in my current role as an SRE, these are usually like all the tools I usually use day in, day out. And yeah, I think that's it when it comes to tooling and all. And yeah, so I think we can go up to we've already like gone up to the Q&A sessions. Unless you guys have any other further questions, you like me to answer?
Okay, thank you, thank you. I think there was a couple of other questions. There's a question from Martin, but he's saying that it's been answered.
Okay.
So maybe you can hear from Joseph.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, let me just call you Kamande because the first name initially.
That thing, awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I love the way you've answered that question on tooling.
Yeah.
But it would be very nice if you categorized it into, the way we use the DevOps tools, like tools for building, tools for testing, tools for deploying, and tools for monitoring. Because I tend to think that it's in that line.
Yeah,
Right?
awesome question.
Yeah, maybe if you go back to that slide, that terminal where you have them, maybe I can do, if that is, if you allow me to maybe extrapolate some of the points.
Okay, sure, go on.
Yeah, please go back to that terminal where you had written the terminal where you have all the tools.
Okay, I think it's the one, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so when it comes to building, like we have Docker for building images, and we have Kubernetes for orchestrating those images. I think the right word is orchestrating the Docker images, where we can either use Kubernetes or we can use Helm, or maybe we can use Docker Compose. Then in terms of infrastructure as code, or rather managing the infrastructure, this is where we use Terraform. For those who are using AWS, maybe they can use CloudFormation. Yeah, but I tend to think that using a multi-cloud tool is one of the best things. So Terraform, you can use Terraform. You can either use Pulumi, you can either use Ansible or Chair or Puppet. Yeah. Then for scripting, I would call it programming, but for scripting, we have 3 main scripting languages. We have Go, we have Python, and we have Ruby. So it's good for, because I also saw there was a question on which is the right path to use. So I think they can reference on this one. Then in terms of operating system, Linux is the one to go with. In terms of monitoring, you have already mentioned Prometheus and Grafana. They go hand in hand. And when you are trying to monitor time series data, you can go with the tick stack, that is Telegraph, Chronograph, Capacitor, and InfluxDB. Yeah. So in terms of testing, I think the best one to use is either Selenium. So, and also they should remember that you have to have the CI/CD platform to use. So you can either use Jenkins, Circle CI, or GitLab CI, or maybe Travis CI, TeamCity. Those are the tools that they need to be having in their hands on. Yeah, I think that's all for me.
Awesome insights, and I really love how you explain them. I think I didn't do a great work when it comes to like explain them, but you did when it comes to, when you mentioned Docker, when it comes to building. I also kind of mentioned I kind of forgot to mention about the CI/CD, which what means is continuous integration, continuous delivery, or deployment, which you kind of find most of the tools which are using for continuous delivery. This can mean for the application itself or for the infrastructure. So when it comes to CD itself, so this could be making sure that you have like Terraform scripts that spins up like AWS infrastructure, or CloudFormation scripts as well, which can do the same thing, and also for Ansible as well. For Kubernetes, once you've already like deployed this, you have images, but you need these images to be run, use Kubernetes. For programming languages, I think this kind of those kind of questions, which is kind of objective, because this can range from this can this is like a tough questions, or a tough bit to like kind of accept or define, because you'll find like different teams are using different programming languages, and their trade-offs are like which kind of programming language you're using. You might tend to like use Go for like system or system programming, Bash for maybe automations, and Python maybe for automations and machine learning. But I think for these questions, when it comes to programming, I think one thing that you really need to do as a DevOps engineer, one of the skills you need to possess is be able to like to learn something new, or be able to have the skills to learn anything or pick up anything. Because one of the skills that I've really faced when working as a DevOps engineer is I've been in one of those teams where they're working with PHP, and this hasn't been one of my like strongholds. So you kind of feel like you're not being successful in those roles because you don't know PHP. But this should like really hinder you, because it kind of depends like wherever you put in your effort, you kind of get to like free from it. But I think what you really need to understand is when it comes to programming is just get to understand one programming language, get to know it really good to an extent that you can get to do an assignment when you get woken up at 3 a.m. in the morning. When you get to that point, then I think you're able to like pick up any language or any other like programming language you really need. Nah, but for me as a DevOps engineer, what I've really learned so far is when it comes to technology and everything, just be passionate about the computer itself. Forget about the CI/CD testing, monitoring, and all the stuff. Just to try to understand this thing we call computer, and all these other things shall be given unto you. Like the Bible say, just seek the kingdom of heaven, and everything shall be added unto you. So just seek to understand the PC that you have in front of you, and everything else shall be added unto you. Because I know from all these lists, I've already like forgotten a couple of things, because I did forget about networking, which is really like the glue to everything that you learn as a DevOps engineer. You really to understand networking, and by networking I mean this is TCP, and IP. If you don't get to understand this, you can never understand cloud. You can never do like understand anything. And I don't think I have anything else to add on to this. I'll just go back to the screen that I was sharing, and we can get maybe to end the session, or unless anyone has anything to add on to that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gidraff. It looks like we might need to have a part 2 of this session, because I'm seeing 2 hands.
Yeah, it's really like
Martin has raised his hand for some time. So maybe Martin, maybe briefly, and then maybe hear maybe from the last person, Fena. So Martin.
Okay, thank you. Good, Ralph, not so fast then. The by conclusion, maybe hold on to it for a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, you were answering my question regarding the technologies I should look out for. I really appreciate that. And I'm very glad with the last line you added, just concentrate on understanding the computer and the rest would be added. Because I was starting to get worried. It's like, this is so much.
Yeah.
I think that really helped. Thanks for that. So,
Yeah, go on, please.
Yeah, my question is, I'm studying to be a software engineer. Okay, now that's what I want to be. I want to be a software engineer, but you don't know what the future holds. I might, have a career switch along the line. So if you were to advise someone who I don't know anything about DevOps, and I would like to prepare for that field, what do I need to have in mind? What do I need to look out for, from software to DevOps? Thank you.
Awesome. Those are very great questions, and I'm really happy to answer this. And what I can really say is you really need to be curious, because when it comes to the software in the technology world, what really matters a lot is how curious are you. right? Because you find some engineers have gone through all the stages. You've been a front-end engineer, you've been a back-end, you've been an operation engineers. But at the end of the day, what really matters is what are you really curious about? Is it do you really want to get okay? Because when it comes to technology, you get the money. At the end of the day, the kind of the means and the what do you call it? The means kind of justify what you are going to get. But to you as a person, the kind of question I really like want to ask you as a person in tech, what's really your passion? Is it to understand the computer itself? Is it to get the money that comes out of the computer? Or is it that you want really to be a badass software engineer, right? Because I was a as a badass software engineer, you don't really care about like your tech stack, because what kind of really limits you is the tech stack. You need to understand the operating system inside and out, networking, and then all the other stuff about the frameworks, the programming languages. If you understand one, you will definitely understand the next one. So my biggest question is like, what do you really want from it? Do you want to be a badass engineer who doesn't really care about the titles and want to understand the technology about the Linux itself? Because when it comes to cloud computing and networking, all that matters is Linux. Do you understand what files are? Do you understand the basic of Linux operating system? Do you really understand that? If you can get answers to that, you get to answer those questions like, do I really get to understand this? Yes, yeah, I know Linux inside out, like the back of my hand. Then, my friend, I don't think like there's any remedy for you, because I believe if you once understand the computing side of things, then you can achieve everything, right? Because for me, to give an example, for me, when I started out, I started as a web developer, mainly developing APIs with Flask and frameworks and front end as well. And then I was so curious to understand like, why do some things works? Like after I push my codes to master and has been merged, what happens after that? That was curious for me. Then I went on and decided, okay, there are people who are already in charge of like deploying code and doing this. Then I decided like, okay, that's what I really want to do. And then I started like exploring DevOps, and I just started like, you need to understand framework, you need to understand like a specific programming language, Linux, networking, and then these are the tools that come. There's a bunch of tools that you need to understand for you to become a DevOps engineer. But all that matters is the curiosity that you have in you. Like, what do you really want to this from me? Is it the money, or is it getting to understand the thing? Because if you go for the money, then you'll forget about the technology. But if you go about the technology itself, then I think the limit, what do you call it? The limit are limitless. You cannot be limited to what you can achieve. One day you can switch to be a machine learning engineer. The next time you because you really understand the computer and the capabilities it has. So for me personally, as an engineer and as a DevOps engineer, what has really made me to stick around in this career is the curiosity that I have. I really need to understand, because I feel like there's a lot to learn about when it comes to operating system, and particularly Linux. There are those things that I've really explored a lot, and I feel like I didn't like a lot of time to like really learn. So for me, I think right now it's just all about understanding what's in front of me, which is my PC, which has a keyboard and a monitor. And that's what I'm trying to explore right now. And I really hope I have answered your question.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, thank you. I think key takeaway there is curiosity. Curiosity. Be curious. So
Yeah, just
maybe we
just be
can go to
curious.
Fen. Fen,
Yes,
I think Yond was there. Okay, go ahead.
yes. I would want to start by saying a big up to Gidraff. Good presentation. I've learned a lot. A lot.
Awesome.
We appreciate. To my question is,
Yeah.
how do you get the limelight, to get at least even something we call where to start, especially for those ones who are starting, where to get attached. How do you get these
Yeah.
attachments? Yes, getting attachments is very difficult. So how do you navigate these waters of attachment? Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things I don't want to say, but usually like a painful answer to say is persistence and perseverance. Actually, like the answer to many things, but like anything that you really want to pursue, you know that you really like to be persistent and persevere because it doesn't like come overnight, right? For me, before I transitioned from becoming like, because I remember what happened when I was transitioning, it was a forced transition. So my previous company had like had a higher demand from like senior DevOps, but for me I was around junior to intermediate, so I got like kind of laid off, and then I had to do a lot of like what do you call it, freelancing work, going to Upwork, applying, sending a lot of proposals and stuff, trying to build like personal projects. But you know, as DevOps, you're not coding a lot, so you have to like be creative and all. To get to a point where right now, where maybe you get to reached out by recruiters, you have to do a lot of projects. Be patient because, as with anything, I think one of the most important virtues to have is patience because, and also consistency. You have to like be showing up when you get a rejections when you're applying for those jobs. Maybe they could be like entry level jobs. You get rejected, don't give up because once you give up, man, that's all for you. Just need like push on. Because I think for me, what really like when I started for my career, what I really learned a lot is just to push on. As in, day comes and you're like, man, I don't have an answer to for my manager, but I have to like show up for the call and try to talk to them, and then they kind of they're generous, they understand you, and then you grow from that. You fail, but never be afraid to fail, and never also like uh, never expect perfectionism when you're in a role, especially for when you're in a junior role when it comes to DevOps. You really like you don't have like you don't have much say when it comes to like the decisions you are making. All you need to do right when you're doing like a junior work level is just make sure those tasks that you're delivering are on point. Ask a lot of many questions. One thing I've really learned a lot is there's no stupid question, because one of the things I feared a lot was, and one of the things that really got me into like trouble early on in my career was not asking a lot of questions. The other thing kind of falls into place when you like get used to tech. Uh, and if you really have like a strong team like backing you up, you really like get the feedback you really need to like grow. And one thing maybe I can really challenges guys to do is, anyway, maybe you're starting your career in DevOps or in tech, just make sure that one of the things that you hold dear to your heart, or one thing that you really like hold close to your heart, is feedback. Feedback, that's one of the things that really makes you grow. You need feedback to grow, you need feedback for everything. Yeah, so imagine you're a chef, but no one ever tells you like how good you are at cooking. But whenever you're told like kuna chumvi mingi kwa chakula, then when you have like a lot of salt in your food, then you get mad at it. You don't have to. You all need to like be kind when you're giving the feedback. Don't attack the person personally. Attack the action itself. Say that you could have done this or this better. I know you this better. I know this. You're this person. No, that kind of forces the other person to grow and not to look their mistake as themselves, but as to look the mistake as a learning point. Just make sure you're giving the feedback and you're able to like receive the feedback. If you're in a position where you're the senior engineers, just make sure also like don't have like one way of seeing things. Just make sure also like welcome other perspective. When you're a junior, just stick to, I don't want to say impress, but just make sure that you're doing your best, you're learning, you're getting feedback. If you're not getting feedback, just ask for it from your manager, from your peers. I think that will like be of help a lot, because if you never get the feedback, you never grow, you never get to understand where you're going wrong, and you never get to prosper in your career. So one thing that if you take from this call, if you had to forget everything else, just take this one thing. Ask for feedback, take feedback, give feedback, right? Never feel jealous because someone is doing something better than you. Approach this person, ask them like, what do you do like do different? What do you do differently? Because for me, I've been those roles where I have failed. There are those roles I've been successful in. But one thing that has been constant for me is asking for feedback and having mentors in my team. And if I don't have team, maybe where I'm working as a individual contractor, I usually always try to find like someone who can mentor me in one or another, because I believe like we're always growing as people and individuals, so we have to like seek that and make that as part of our life. When you wake up, ask for feedback, you know? And I think that's all. I don't think I have anything else to add on to that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gidraff, for that.
Yeah.
I think maybe because of time, we would maybe want to end it there. But maybe just something to add on what Fen was asking. Just it's always good to just post a project, whatever project maybe you've done. Just post it out on LinkedIn. You never know which recruiter might see it. So just shout it out, and I'm sure you'll be able to get someone who might be looking for you. So I think there was Joseph wanted to add something, although he's put it on the chat. I don't know if you'd like to maybe add something before we close.
Yeah, let me just put it in my own words. I think it will make more sense. Yeah, so Martin, you said you're a software engineer and you are not planning to, switch careers to DevOps engineering. But remember, you as a software engineer, it's always good, as you heard Kamande saying, he was curious to know what happens after he pushes his code to version controlled environment. Yeah, the same way applies to any software engineer. It is always nice, when you are building that software, be the person who is also shipping that product and also the person who is running it. So that is, you build, you ship it, that is deployment, and also in terms of monitoring. Because remember, when that software has an issue which needs to be maybe patched, you are the right person to know what error occurred, where it occurred. And remember, one of the KPIs of DevOps is the mean time to recovery or to failure. And yeah, you being the software engineer who built that part, you'll be the right person to know where the error occurred. Yeah, so you build it, you ship it, and you run it. That's the mantra.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, also
Thank
guys,
you.
wacha nijipigie campaign hapa. Don't forget to join me on Thursday for DevOps and Vuj. Yes, yeah, join me there. We can talk more about this one. Bye, guys.
Now, if you have a
Thanks, Joseph. I think also just to add, we maybe for Martin, we also had a session on the path, the career path to becoming a DevOps. So you could check it out on our YouTube channel. I believe the recording is there.
awesome.
So thank you so much, Gidraff. Maybe if you don't mind, I can share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I just want to thank everyone for joining this session this evening. For me, I've learned quite a lot, and I think one of the things that I'm taking away is collaboration. Just learning that a DevOps engineer, there's a lot of collaboration that he needs to handle in terms of working with different teams. and also a lot of automation and eliminating silos. And also, I didn't know that as a DevOps engineer, also you need to evaluate different cloud services. So there's quite a lot that I've learned. So at this time, I just want to invite you guys, if maybe you've not joined our groups, feel free to scan the QR codes on the screen, and then you'll be able to join our community, where we'll be able to share different topics, different things regarding DevOps, the career path, different topics, different tools, and just different resources as well. But I just want to say a big thank you to Gidraff for taking us through the session and just giving us a highlight of how a day looks like for a DevOps engineer. There's quite a lot to learn from this. There are many tools. I had a couple of questions myself, but I think maybe I'll look for another time. Then we can be able to, discuss more on, just how do you manage the different, quite a number of tools that, are there for that a DevOps engineer can use. But thank you so much for your time and for just taking us through this session. So, guys, feel free to join our community and let's keep learning. I don't know if someone has something to add. Maybe Sam, if you're there.
Okay. For me, I just appreciate Gidraff for the amazing presentation. I've also learned a lot from the presentation, and I appreciate him for taking time to prepare and also for taking the extra time to respond to the questions that have been asked. I would also like to appreciate everyone who has been patient throughout the session. And yeah, so that is all from my side. So I just encourage you guys to join our community. We would appreciate if people would also like to speak to join the community, and maybe they can help in one of the sessions. And yeah, so that is all from my end.
Thank you, Sam. I believe we've come to the end of our session. So I want to wish everyone a good night. Martin, I think it's a good evening in West Africa. Okay, feel free to drop.
Awesome, guys. I think for me, it's a pleasure having to be part of NDC. I've always wanted to be part of a community where I feel like I can share my knowledge and what I've gained so far.
Awesome.
And if you guys are welcome, maybe for me again to maybe have another talk or anything, I'm welcome for that. I think so far I've gained a lot of knowledge and experience when it comes to DevOps, and which I'm very sure it can be of help to many of you who maybe are starting their career in terms of DevOps. So just feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, on Twitter at Kamande Gid, or LinkedIn at Gidraff Kamande. I'm very sure maybe someone is going to share these slides with most of you. So if you feel you have some other questions that you really feel were unanswered during this call, just feel free to reach to me on the DMs or on the channels I've shared, and I'll gladly help. If you do need a one-on-one session with me in terms of mentorship, I'll also gladly help with you on your next career. And yeah, that's all about me. It was on being part of the community and being able to share what I've learned so far, and really looking up to doing this more often. And thank you, Samuel and Samson, for extending me this opportunity to be able to be one of the speakers on this call.
Awesome.
And yeah, this is really great. I hope this continues, and we get to grow this community to where people get value out of it. And yeah, that's it from me.
Thank you so much, Gidraff, for your time.
Yeah, awesome. Guess I'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I believe we'll be able to have a part 2 of this. Thank you.
Awesome. Really looking forward to it. And you guys have a good night.
Good night.
Bye. See y'all.